What up, y'all? It's your man, Abuamerican. Oh, that background. It's like my head's floating. White on white. Let's check it out. I was thinking about the Black Lives Matter movement. The publicity they've been getting a lot lately, showing up at Trump rallies, and they've been doing a lot of protests here and there, blocking off roads, and the other actions they take that a lot of people complain about. So, thinking about my stance on the Black Lives Matter movement, it's kind of mixed feelings. It's obvious that Black America has a very tumultuous relationship with the United States on a whole, both on a legal perspective and just on a social one. What do I think? Okay, let's stick with the justification part first and foremost. Like, how are they justified? I think the Black Lives Matter movement does have some validity and some justification because, as I said, the historical and contemporary context of the relationship that Black America has with just the state and the society that surrounds them. They are a minority. They're about 14% of the U.S. population. So, easily oppressed. Now, I think that they have justification from the stance that when you really look at like a lot of these cases, like Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, the guy who was shot, I think was in Utah. He was walking around. It's an open carry state. He was carrying an air rifle through a Walmart or something, and he got shot by the cops. This is, it basically circumvents the U.S. Constitution in terms of the rights of American citizens, which is a right to a trial, jury, whatnot. And basically what's happened is the police have become the judge, jury, and executioner. They circumvent the entire justice system of the United States. And there's no consequence. They can kill a Black American, and white America is coming to find that it applies to them too. And there's really no consequence to the police officer in killing a man and not following due process. Arresting him, giving him a right to attorney, then letting him have a right to trial in front of a jury of his peers. Unreasonable searches and unjust, or what do you call it, treatment. Basically, you can't torture beat dudes. So in this particular stance, Black Lives Matters, they do have a pretty valid stance. Where did they go wrong? Man, where to start there? Okay, first and foremost, they just go wrong, period, on why is it that Black lives only matter when it's white police, aka the establishment, the man who is killing them. But when Black people are killing Black people, you don't see them out on the streets protesting and going all crazy and making a mess out of everything because Black people are killing Black people. If Black lives matter, it wouldn't matter who killed them, Black men or white men. You would be upset regardless. But somehow it's okay when Blacks are killing Blacks, but it's not okay when whites are killing Blacks. So it can't be, gentlemen, either the lives and ladies who are part of the Black Lives Movement, either the lives matter all the time or they don't at all. You can't be selective about this, But I mean, I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. So I think you're kind of opposing yourselves in that. You should be out on the streets protesting no matter what. Whenever a life is taken, then you need to go out there and you need to make a stink about it. Because either, like I said, either the lives matter. It's the life we're talking about, right? Black lives matter. Or is it Black lives matter when white people kill us movement? Because then, okay, fine. If you want to say it's Black lives matter when white people kill us, fine. Okay. Then the movement makes sense in its current form. But if it's just Black lives matter, then it doesn't matter. It's the life that's important. It's not how it's lost or who loses it. Sorry, not who loses it, but who takes the life, be it a white man or a Black man. It's the life, the Black life that has been lost, that's important. But they don't really protest and go out on the street and get all mad when Black people are killing Black people. So you kind of delegitimize yourself by not focusing on that also. Now, to top it off, if you look at the abortion rate in the black community, believe it or not, it's not cops, it's not pork chops, it's not high blood pressure or FEMA that kills more black people than anyone else. It's abortion. Abortion kills more black lives than any other thing that kills black people combined. If you combine everything that kills black people unnaturally, abortion is at the top of the list. So, again, Black Lives Matter movement. Where are you in front of the abortion clinics? You guys should be lining up with the Christian right. Why is it that blacks tend to vote Democratic, but then you're talking about Black Lives Matter and anti-abortion is a right, conservative type ideology? You should be against that if Black Lives Matter. For the first time ever, black lives are not at replacement rate. We are not producing children at a replacement rate. That's stopped. So apparently black lives don't matter because you're out getting abortions at like epic rates to the point that we are no longer at a replacement rate. I think Black Lives Matter fundamentally has a point and some validity, but you guys just wash it all away with stupidity. Now, if you haven't read R/K Selection Theory, this is the book right here. It's going to show in reverse, of course, because of the film. You actually need to read it. It's by the anonymous conservative. I don't care if you're a Democrat or you're a liberal, whatever else. You need to read the book. And I'll tell you right now, the African American community is highly, highly R-selected. Now, R-selection is not good. It's far from good. You have R-selection and K-selection. So R-selection would be like the African American community. K-selection would be like the Jewish community, where they have their own ambulances, their own police forces. They've got everything organized, and they have absolute loyalty to the in-group. Where African Americans have zero loyalty to the in-group. I'm just going to get mine, homie. I don't care about them fools. I'm getting mine. I'm going to get that money. All costs, man. F them. There's no loyalty to one another. It's just, what do I need? How do I need it? Let me get it at any and all costs, including women, which is part of the problem. Now, we know that the African American community, and I know this is kind of a tangent, but this goes into the Black Lives Matter movement because you got to keep it connected. Now, the African American community is matriarchal, and that's why it's in chaos, because you've never seen a great or a magnificent matriarchal society historically. You'll never see it either. You've never seen it, and you never will. You can find me obscure groups of like 1,000 or less people who are living in matriarchal societies. You can find great matrilineal societies like the Jews. The Jews are matrilineal, but that's part of being a patriarchal society. It keeps your women from marrying outside of the group. And it keeps your men from marrying outside the group. Because if it's matrilineal, everything comes through the woman. Why would a man marry outside of the community if all of the wealth, all of the prestige goes through the female? It wouldn't make sense to marry an outside woman. And then so anyway, moving on. So I think the African American community in general, to get away from the Black Lives Matter movement, needs to go matrilineal but patriarchal. So prestige, wealth needs to be passed on through the female line, but the society needs to be patriarchally controlled. And this requires a lot of work because African American women aren't trying to surrender their position to black men. There's a guy I listen to, is Sarge WP. Check him out. And he talks about this. The guy is a freaking genius. I got to give him his props, man. I started listening to him, and at first I kind of didn't like him. Then I was like, man, this guy's making a lot of sense. There's a lot of guys that I don't like I listen to. I listen to Stephen Molyneux. I don't really like him, but I listen to him. He makes a lot of sense, even though he's a social Darwinist and a racist, in my humble opinion. But I might be wrong. But hey, whatever. That's my opinion. So anyway, you don't see the Jews, who are a minority everywhere except in Israel, with Jewish Lives Matter. Semantic, Semitism, semantic lives matter. How do you say it? How would you say? Semitic lives matter. You don't see them with these movements. Why? Because they're a highly K-selected society of people. They don't need it. And really, Black America doesn't either. All you need to do is replicate what has been done successfully. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Women, you're not... Look, African American women, if you don't want to see your sons dying in the streets, do this. Stop trying to raise men. You can't do it. I can't raise a woman. I have my daughter, and I love her to death, but you know what? There's no way I can raise a daughter because I don't know what it is to be a woman. And you don't know what it is to be a man. You don't understand the dynamics at play in a man's life. And it's a lot more complicated than you think. It's not all just have fun, chill out with the boys, oh, yeah, what up, homie, and bang women. It's not all fun and games. So you're trying to raise a man from a female perspective, and our lives are the antithesis of one another. It's night and day, literally. And then when you raise these dysfunctional sons, 50 years of feminism in the Black American community, and you complain about black men being screw-ups, failures, no good, worthless, shiftless, this, that, the other. You go on national TV, you say it. You go on YouTube, talk to each other and say it. Then when it comes to a critical point where black men, these dysfunctional black men that you've been raising for 50 plus years, we need a Black Lives Matter movement. No, we need you to stop trying to raise men. Stop it. You can't raise a man. This is why we have the Black Lives Matter movement. But I don't want to go off on a tangent. I'm going to end this video here. Let me just say, there is some validity to the movement. You know, there is obviously a problem between Black America and the rest of America. That's undeniable. Even the most in denial denier can't deny that, if that makes sense. It's impossible not to see. At the same time, Black Lives Matter, you're your own worst enemy. Because when it comes time to show that Black Lives Matter, you don't speak up. You only speak up at certain times and certain places, But you're not consistent. There's no congruence. And that's a problem. And don't think people don't see it, even if you don't. So that's my take on Black Lives Matter. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's not really a clear stance. I mean, sometimes I look at it and I hear some of the things they say, and I'm like, hey, okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. And other times I'm going to oppose you. Sometimes I'm going to agree. Sometimes I'm going to oppose you. And I can do that with almost every movement, unless it's the most irrational, unreasonable movement that you could think of. I don't know, like maybe the KKK or something like this, But otherwise, I just, and even then I'm biased because I'm black, I mean, that's going to be obvious. Maybe a white person won't be in the KKK and he'll come from the same stance that I do as a white person and say, I agree with this, but I disagree with that. But I'm going to be just diametrically opposed to them just because I'm Black American. But when I look at the movement and I hear what they say, it just doesn't make sense. And I like to consider myself a rational person. It's like ISIS. I'm Muslim. I should technically say, hey, I can agree with some of their ideas. And I don't agree with those guys at all. So in that sense, I do consider myself to be quite neutral. Nonetheless, tangent again. This is your man, Abuamerican. Catch me on Instagram. Catch me on Twitter. Catch me on Facebook. All at Abuamerican. I'm out.